Hey,
I've
Dad
always
worked for Nestle. Dad worked for Nestle, mate. The free Kit Kat today didn't really work too well.
This is potentially the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life. And that's saying something because there's been some stupid stuff in the history of it.
For me, what was the most rewarding, just learning, taking stuff out of them, and also being given this platform to be able to stand up and represent people of my time.
The only way really to kick poverty in the butt at all is through education, and I probably didn't realise until I went there.
They should back you. It's Water Cooler Weekly. I mean, it's a big deal.
It's my pleasure now to welcome on Australian bobsled athlete Bree Walker. Bree, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to touch on most of this a little bit later in terms of the bobsled stuff, but I think it'd be good right now to sort of just focus on because the season is just finished. So where are you at the moment, and sort of how did the season end for you personally?
I'm currently based in Germany, and yeah, the season was a really great season. It was a big learning curve for me and my team, with the introduction of monobob into the World Cup circuit. So monobob is a new Olympic event in our sport, and currently it's just been on the lower tier levels, but this year it was bumped up to World Cup. And we as a team also decided to just purely focus on the World Cup circuit. So yeah, it was a really massive season, racing week after week in both monobob and two-man event. But we produced some really great results. I won 2 World Cup monobob medals. Me and my teammate Sarah, we achieved multiple top 10 finishes, which is like really unheard of for an Australian team in the World Cup circuit. And then, yeah, we finished overall 7th in the two-man, and I finished 2nd overall in the monobob. So, yeah, you got to say it was a fantastic season. We had a few ups and downs. Our other teammate, Steph, had to go home halfway through the season because she had an awful back injury. So that was really hard to overcome. World Champs wasn't such a good event for us, purely because we didn't really have a lot of time on that track this year, and it's a very tough track. But yeah, overall, you got to look at the positives, and we had a great season.
No, that's it. Especially when you're talking about a time, obviously with COVID, which has just completely thrown almost every sport into chaos. Mm-hmm. Finding a way to take a positive out of it. Yeah, I kind of
forgot about that, to be honest. Yeah.
I try and forget about it.
Yeah. No, that did throw in a few interesting cases. We were affected by COVID ourselves, like our physio came down with a positive test, and so yeah, we were had to quarantine for 10 days. And there was multiple teams that had the same situation. So yeah, you had just that added into the shenanigans of the season. So yeah, it was full on, but we made it work, and I'm glad we were able to produce a fantastic season.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. Before bobsled, you were a successful state and national level hurdler, and ultimately went to America to compete in college. Talk about what that experience was like for you and where your career focus was at that point, say before college.
Yeah, before college, I really did want to represent Australia at a national level, at an international level. I really wanted to go to the Olympics or compete at a world champs, and compete at that high international level. But once I went to college, I came home after 1 year because really college didn't excel my athletic career as I was hoping it to. It happens with a lot of athletes. They go over to college expecting it to be the game changer for them, and it doesn't really turn out to be that way. So I returned home and I continued with the 400-meter hurdle training, but I just felt like there was something missing. I didn't really have the fire for it anymore. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important for athletes to really be in tune with their body. And if the fire is missing, then you're not going to put in the 110% you need to be successful. So yeah, that's when I started looking at different sports, and I found bobsleigh.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I was reading an article and there's one thing that you sort of touched on there that I would like to get you to explain a little bit more. You said that you came back slower and that some international athletes can sometimes find themselves slower going through the college system. As someone who doesn't run and can't run, explain what that means.
Well, for me, the college that I went to was heavily based on gym work. And I did express to my coach that if you throw me in the gym, I'm going to just stack on muscle. And I was already kind of a heavier girl for a 400-meter hurdler. And I was like, trust me, if I look at weights, I put on weight. And he was like, no, we're going to manage your training so you don't do that. But I know my body very well, and that's exactly what I did. And ultimately, I ended up being slower, and which was really upsetting. And because I was training really hard over there, and it's obviously very hard for an athlete. Like if you're training really hard and you're not producing the results you want, it gets you really down. And I had to ask the question: is this where I'm going to get is this place going to be the place where I get my success? And it wasn't. So I had to. At least I tried, I'm very happy because going to college was a dream of mine. And so I'm really happy that I did go overseas and did jump at that opportunity. I think it's important to, if an opportunity like that comes along, you've got to just go for it and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a friend of mine who's currently playing rugby in St. Louis at college. He sort of had a similar sort of goal. He wanted to play in Super Rugby here and, maybe represent Australia, but it wasn't to be. And he goes, well, this opportunity came up, you can't sort of turn that down. Before we get into the bobsled side of things, from a hurdling point of view, did you have any maybe influences, and were there any specific moments where you actually, thought that Olympics or World Championships was well within reach?
Yeah, I think it was the year leading up to before I went away to college. I definitely thought that I was informed to be able to compete at an international level. Me and my coach were really working towards having an Australian team berth. And then obviously influences for me were definitely Jana Pittman. You can't look past her. Sally Pearson was also a huge one for me, simply because they were women in the limelight of Australian athletics at the time. And they inspired me so much to go for my goals and dreams. And I guess the main one for me that started me in athletics to begin with would be Cathy Freeman. I do not hide the fact that I'm a huge Cathy Freeman fan. And I think there's a lot of athletes out there that say that her performance at the 2000 Olympics really inspired them to go for their Olympic dreams. So they would definitely be my influences in the sport.
Yeah, I think the Cathy Freeman's gold at the Sydney Olympics for me is the best like sporting moment in our history. Like I watched it a week ago and it still like sent like shivers down my spine. It is absolutely incredible. So let's touch on the 2016 when the Rio Olympics were on. That sort of was the time where you sort of had to make that decision to, move away from hurdles. Something obviously if you've done it for such a long period of time like you did, how difficult was that to essentially have that conversation with yourself that I need to walk away?
Yeah, it was really hard. Like I had to be brutally honest with myself and ask the question, with the physical state I was in and also just my age, I guess, am I going to be able to achieve my international dreams with 400 hurdles? And the answer was no. And so I was actually watching the Rio Olympics and I saw Kim Brennan win I think it's single sculls event in rowing. And they told her story that she was a 400 hurdler and transitioned over to rowing. And because she was injured, and that time I did have a little bit of a foot injury, and I thought, well, I know I still have a lot to give. Maybe I can give it in another sport. So yeah, this is when I started Googling things, and I was like, I wonder if Australia has a bobsleigh team. And so I just simply Googled it, and they didn't at the time, but they were revamping the team. And so I applied for the talent identification camp. And yeah, in a month, I went up to Sydney. I competed in the talent ID camp, and I think it was like 6 weeks later, I was off to Whistler in Canada to learn how to drive a bobsleigh. Yeah, it was a very big turnaround. I had to raise a lot of money. I think I raised like $10,000 within 6 weeks to be able to go away. But yeah, it was a very exciting time. I had a lot of people support around me, and so yeah, I'm very grateful for everyone encouraging me to continue on my dreams.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. But paint a picture for people who don't know what it's like at that talent camp, which might actually be everyone. Like, yeah. I can't even imagine what the training facilities would be like here.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any like bobsleigh specific training facilities here, but simply we just went up to Sydney and we tested in a few weightlifting lifts and sprint distances. So I think we did 30 meters, power clean, squat, standing long jump, and all those general kind of like physical tests. And it was just to see that if you were physically fit, because the federation didn't want to send, just average Joes away. They wanted to send athletes away.
So I wouldn't have made it.
I don't know. Are you any good at those?
No. Okay, so you get to Whistler. There's a scene in Cool Runnings, which obviously is a movie everyone's seen, where they go down the track for the first time, and it's such an incredible part of the movie. When was the first time that you went down the track, and what was that like?
It was actually in a monobob. I learned how to drive in a monobob, so I love how this has all come full circle now.
Yeah.
Because monobob wasn't an event back in 2016 when I began. But I did say to myself, if you don't like this, you don't have to do it. So I wasn't going to force myself to do something that I didn't like. And it was funny, like the coaches are very vague when you first begin, because obviously you have absolutely no idea like what you need to do when you're going down a track. You've never experienced something like this before. So they keep it very basic. And a lot of the coaches are like, just sit in, go down, and we'll talk when you get to the bottom. And I was like, all right.
Okay.
And so they give you a general idea, but it was kind of just like driving a go-kart in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I get to the bottom and I didn't have the feeling like I was scared. I didn't have the feeling like I didn't want to do this. I was like, all right, I'll go again. And so then it was just a matter of like going week after week, day after day for about, I think 10 days. And yeah, how you start to learn a track, you learn from lower down the course, and then you build your way all the way up to the top. So that was just really cool to be able to have that challenge of, working your way up to the top, learning the track, getting better and better each run. And then, yeah, just by the end, I was just completely in love, and I had such an adrenaline rush after every session. And so, yeah, I was like, yeah, no, this is my sport now. I really love this.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting talking to athletes like yourself who can sort of have the same passion on something they've just picked up as opposed to something they've done for like 10 to 15 years. Like, this is probably going to be a really stupid question based on what you just said, but did you have like any doubts early on, or were you sort of just like, I just love this, I don't really care what happens?
Yeah, it was more doubts in terms of like, can I afford this?
Yeah.
Because when I was talking to people, they were saying how expensive the sport is, and the equipment side of things, the travel side of things. being away from home for so long. And I feel like they were my only doubts. And because I knew my body would tell me if I liked the sport or not. And I just had to be really tuned in and make sure I listened to that. But I didn't have any of those feelings. So I just continued on. But it was more the doubts of, can I afford this? Because it is a very, very, very expensive sport.
Yeah, I can imagine sleds, you can't buy one at Rebel Sport. They don't probably come easily or cheaply.
No. I actually just bought a new 2-man this year, and that was 60,000 euros. So
wow.
Translate that into Australian dollars, you're looking at closer to 100,000. And people at my age are spending that on houses and stuff. And so I'm just going to live in my bobsleigh for the rest of my life.
That is, you best take good care of that.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
That's crazy. So, all right, maybe let's talk about maybe some influencers, some people who were really integral early days in, say, coaching you and keeping the belief and sort of that helped you in that transition period to go from learning the sport to eventually competing.
Yeah, I think one that stands out for me is Shane McKenzie. He was actually an Australian bobsledder himself in the 2006 Olympics. But he was actually just coaching down the road at Ringwood Athletics Club. And I think I got in contact with him through my new teammate that I met when I went over to learn how to slide. And so I just contacted him because he was local, and he was like, all right, let's go for it. And we started training together, and he not only helped me physically, but he was helping me mentally. And it was nice to be able to have a coach in Australia that you could talk to about the sport and they understood everything that you were going through. And so for me, he was a big influencer in the early days. When I progressed through the sport, my boyfriend Christian has also been a big influencer for me. He's actually on the German national team.
Mm-hmm.
And we started talking, and when we were talking, I just realized that a lot of our values and passions for the sport aligned. And it was really nice. Like, I've had boyfriends in the past who have been very supportive of my athletics career, but I haven't met one that's so ambitious as what he was.
Mm-hmm.
And he, in the time that we met, he wasn't really like a major success in the German national team, but he knew that within him he could be successful. And I had the same feeling. And so for me, I was like, yep, this guy is perfect for me. And so we started dating, and then I actually moved over to Germany after the I think it was 2018. And then I started training with his coach, Tim Ressler. And Tim Ressler has really been a game changer for me. I think being a German coach, I don't know if many people out there have worked with German coaches, but they're very straightforward. They're very to the point, and they're no messing around. And so I just came in there, and I knew that I was dead serious about this, and I wasn't messing around. And I think that he could see that in me.
Mm-hmm.
And so he just took me on board, and he turned me from an average bobsleigh athlete to now like one of the best pushers in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so exciting for him, because nobody thought Australia could be competitive in this kind of sport.
Yeah.
And just with his pure belief in me and my willingness to train my ass off, he has helped me to achieve that. So yeah, it's been really exciting experience to meet these people along the way and have them help me achieve my dreams.
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting point that you raise, because I feel like we have a lot of athletes from, say, winter sports like hockey who do so well when they do get over to, say, Europe or North America, when they have access to a completely different level of coaching that is available here. And that's absolutely not a knock on any of the coaches here, but
No.
you know, you're essentially going to countries where you're getting coaches who have done this their whole lives, and they're just you just can't compete with that. So you mentioned he was like really integral. Is the fact that sort of basing yourself over there in terms of like, you know, in the off season, you say don't have to come all this way back and you can train. Like, is that just something that really sort of sets you apart from, say, when you started out?
Yeah, I think that and the coaching for sure has been able to help me, but surrounding myself with such professional athletes has really been allowed me to like step up and try and match their standards. Because here I train with just bobsledders in our training squad, and they're all professional athletes. This is their job. And so for me, I was like, I want to make this my job. I want to be able to achieve big things in the sport. So I'm going to make this my job. So I'm doing whatever it takes to be able to match their level. And it's funny, I come home now and I see what the environments I was training in, and they're so below what is the opportunities that are given here in Europe and maybe in North America. I'm not sure. But it's weird because it's kind of like you could sit there and be like, oh, you're so unprofessional back in Australia, but nobody knows. Nobody knows any different. People like, I thought I was being professional at home. You know what I mean? Like I sacrificed so much. I would train every single day. I would eat the right things, all this kind of stuff. But until you've actually been exposed to that professional environment, you don't know what being a professional athlete is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's an incredible answer. Talk about studying the track. Based on Cool Runnings, I learned that studying the track and the driver is obviously the most important, and it's crucial. Talk about how long you would study a track for and how long it really takes you to, say, lock in and feel truly confident with the track.
It depends on the track for sure. An easier track, you could study it for a few hours and then get the general gist of it. For me, I find that I can look at a track and study the notes of the track, walk the track, but I don't actually start learning the track until I slide down it. Yeah, for sure. So actually, I'm a doing person. I like doing and sliding down the track. So for me, yeah, it depends on the amount. It depends on the track to how long it actually takes me to learn it. So like, for example, Eagles, which is in Austria, it's quite an easy track, and I understand the concept of the track very well. That took me, maybe 40 runs, 50 runs to be able to truly understand and do well on that track. Winterberg, similar. That's a track in Germany, but Altenburg is where we had world champs, and I still don't understand this track. Like I get parts of it, but there is parts of it that I'm still trying to figure out. And it's just a matter of, for me anyways, understanding the track, understanding the concept of the track. And then once you do that, it just clicks. And so I'm waiting for that click moment there.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. And like when you say walking the track there, I'm assuming there's a path that.
No, you walk inside the track.
You walk inside. Okay.
Yeah. So you walk actually down the track that you drive. And then with my coach, I look at each corner and we will discuss like what line I want to take through the corner and then how I'm going to be able to achieve taking that line. So where I need to steer, and then what I should be feeling in each corner. And that's kind of things that I talk about with my coach as I walk down the track.
Okay, let's put you in the bobsled going down. How quick does it get, and how quick do you have to take these lines at these turns?
On average, you're looking at between 110 to 130 kilometers an hour. In Whistler, you can get up to 140 kilometers an hour. But yeah, this is like you got to think very, very fast on your feet. And if you make a mistake, you need to think quicker than what it's coming at you to be able to correct that. So, yeah, it's all coming at you very fast, but the more you drive a track, the more you've studied it, the quicker you're going to be able to get yourself out of trouble if you're in trouble, or the better you're just going to be able to drive the track in general.
Yeah, I know you said you're a doing person, but are you also very visual in the fact that you will map out a run in your head and how you think it's going to play out?
Yeah, for sure. I'm very visual, and that's a part of the sport, is being very visual. You do mind runs before you go down a track, and it's just visualizing the lines you want to take, visualizing the track, and then it's just practicing with your hands how you want to drive each corner. So yeah, that's all part of it.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. How long do you reckon it took you to, from say your first run where you were like truly confident enough to go, I can sort of see what I'm doing in these turns here?
Yeah, Whistler is a very, very fast track. And so for the first few days, actually, I couldn't see corner 14. And so I was like, guys, I can't see corner 14. I don't know what it is. Is it a left or a right? I don't know. And so it was a really funny joke among me and my friends at the time. And I think now I look back on it, I'm pretty sure I was going 90 kilometers an hour. So like more than 20 Ks slower than what I generally go in a bobsleigh run. But yeah, I think it took me about a week until I was able to actually see what I'm looking at. And then from year to year, I'm finding that the track is slowing down for me. So like I'm able to see a lot more in the track. I'm able to feel a lot more when I'm driving. And yeah, it's just, I feel like more experience I'm getting on, I guess, all different kinds of levels of competing, the better I'm coming at the sport for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about Sarah Blizzard, which is who you race with in the 2-person format. How important is she, and how important is that relationship, especially when you touch on the fact that, you're away from home for so long of the year?
Yeah, she's a huge asset to the team. I'm so glad that I just randomly got her name and called her up one day. Yeah, she's been great this season. As I said before, our other teammate, Steph, she went down early on in the season. And so it was just me and Sarah. And it's really hard for a brakeman. They're the ones doing the heavy lifting behind the scenes while I'm trying to focus on what I need to do to drive the track correctly. And yeah, she has helped me so much to be able to not just drive well in the 2-man event, but also drive well in the monobob event. And yeah, it's not just, like you said, we're traveling around the world for 6 months together each year. And so you become very close, and when the other person isn't doing so well, when the other person is doing really great. And so, yeah, it becomes a very close relationship when you spend so long together.
Yeah, absolutely. We sort of touched on monobob before, which is the sort of solo discipline that is coming in the next Winter Olympics. It's safe to say that you felt that you should have been in the last games, but talk about how much the Beijing games, which is coming up in 330 days, apparently. Talk about so it's not that far away. How much does that motivate and drive you, even when you're, say, competing in a race now?
Yeah, I think always the Olympics is a major goal. But for me, after the last Olympics, I didn't want to just be one of those teams that was like, I'm aiming for the Olympics and that's it. I wanted to be able to represent Australia on the highest level at the best of my ability every single year. And so, yes, the Olympics is a huge goal, but every year I have a huge goal to be successful and to represent Australia with the best of my ability. So, yeah, I definitely have that in the back of my mind, but I like to be present and be focused on what I'm doing in the here and now. And I think that ultimately will result in us being successful at going to the next Olympics.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the present and now. You had multiple wins at this discipline and this format, and you finished second overall. Do you remember the first win, and what was that feeling like?
Yeah, I do. I clearly do, because I felt like a stunned mullet. So I had that goal in mind, and I didn't really talk about it with my coach, but he also had it in mind too, and I knew it was within me to be able to win. So I just had to execute my process. I was driving well in the trainings before the race, and I was pushing quite well too. So it was a matter of just being like, all right, what do I need to do to be the best I can be? Mm-hmm. And I just went out and did it. And I crossed the line. I saw the number one next to my time. And so I knew I'd won, and I just pulled up. I pulled the brake, and I turned around and I saw Sarah there, and she gave me a massive hug. And then that's when I really realized I'd actually won. So I think in the video, my reaction is very mundane to what I was feeling inside, because I was just like, wow, we actually did that. We actually achieved what we had set out to do. And so, yeah, it's going to be an experience that I'll remember probably for the rest of my life.
Yeah, completely understandable. I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but in the monobob, everyone sort of uses the same sled. So it comes down to the individual skill of the athletes, which become more important. Now, what's the experience levels like for the girls you're competing against?
Oh, I'm competing against Olympic champions, world champions, like girls that I've always looked up to ever since I began the sport. You have the Germans that have dominated the sport for years. You have people like Kaylee Humphries, Alana Myers-Taylor. All these women have won multiple Olympic medals, world championships. So for me, I really have to kind of focus in on me, because if you keep looking around and you see who you're competing against, that can be very intimidating. So you just have to focus on you and what you're here to do. And then that's how you're going to be successful.
Yeah. Do you ever take a moment or catch yourself sort of going like, I've been doing this for a couple of years and I'm competing, and, I'm more than just competing, like I'm winning at this level?
There was the last race that I had that I won. Alana Myers was second. So she was just in front of me, and we were warming up together. And I'm just like, holy crap, I'm warming up with Alana Myers-Taylor. Like she's been someone that at the last Olympics, I got a photo with her holding her silver medal. And I know she's been a dominant force in the sport for years, and she's an unbelievable pusher. And I was just like, I'm so excited that I get the opportunity to warm up with you. And to win against her was, just, for me, it's set in stone that I can challenge the best in the world. And I want other people to know that, like, they can also do that if they're brave enough to stand up and challenge those girls. You work hard enough, and you can achieve those big goals up against, the dominant forces in the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. When an Australian does well at like a Winter Olympics, they usually stand out a lot more than, say, someone in a Summer Games, because it's, obviously it's not let's say unheard of, but it is, it's magnified with the fact, because we've had so few medals. Do you understand that what, success at the Olympics could potentially do for bobsled and the sport here?
Yeah. And I hope that it does, like if we are successful at the next games, I hope it opens doors to other athletes who were like me and thought that they had a lot more to give, but they just weren't being able to give it in their current sport, that they take the plunge and move to a sport like bobsleigh or another winter sport, because there's so much opportunity out there. You can travel the world, meet amazing people, and continue doing what you love and being successful. Like Laura Peel is an aerial skier, and she just won her second world champ title. Like, that's amazing. And that's just like Australians just, you know, taking the plunge to go overseas and be successful in this sport. And I really hope that I can open the eyes to other athletes to go out there and do the same like I did.
Yeah, I know a lot of athletes are, you know, very modest and, you know, don't sort of, maybe they wouldn't necessarily go out and say, I want to be the first to, you know, achieve this or the first to achieve that. Would you say that you're that way, or you're naturally competitive and you want to be the first?
I wouldn't say that would be like my focus, is being the first. But ultimately, if I am doing my best, and I'm going to be happy at the end of the day. And if that results in a medal at the Olympics, then that's just a bonus. So yeah, for me, it's a matter of just going out there and doing my best performance and seeing what the outcome is.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really incredible way to finish. That was a really interesting chat, and I absolutely loved hearing about how you were able to sort of tailor this successful career, maybe, you know, make the toughest decision to put it away and then throw yourself completely into something and, you know, achieve success and hopefully more success. So, Bree, thank you very much for coming on and talking about your career. I really do appreciate it.
No worries at all. Thanks for having me.